This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. It's a devastating loss that has the city and basketball community grieving. Winnipeg Sea Bears captain Chad Posthumus died yesterday. Posthumus suffered a brain aneurysm and subsequent complications earlier this month. He was 33 years old. The CBC's Alana Cole reports.
Has now cleared 500 points.
A star on the court, the first player signed to the team. Chad Posthumus became a key part of the Winnipeg Sea Bears. He died yesterday. In a statement, his family says Chad has passed away following a catastrophic stroke as the result of surgical complications. We thank you for all the support and prayers we received through this difficult time. We love you, Chad. The 33-year-old died less than 2 weeks after suffering a brain aneurysm during a training session. He was the captain of the Sea Bears and passionate about playing for his hometown.
You got to come home and play in your hometown, right? You can't not do that. So that's kind of the, wow, there's an opportunity to play here. It wasn't even a thought. It was like, I want to do that. I'm going to do that. How can I do that?
His loss hard for those who knew him.
Opposing players would fear him because he was so big, strong, dominating all the time. But off the court, the biggest teddy bear, the biggest, softest, nicest guy that you can imagine. Always there with a smile, a high five, especially to the young little kids that looked up to him literally and figuratively. And he was always had a smile on his face. And that's the real part that we really miss with the sad news of today.
The Sea Bears have set up an online book of condolences. A social media post says, in part, Chad was and will always remain the face of our team. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Canada-wide arrest warrant has been issued for the 25-year-old semi-truck driver involved in a crash that claimed the lives of a mother and daughter near Altona. Sarah Unger and her 8-year-old daughter Alexa were killed last Friday as they were heading home from the grocery store. Police say the driver of the semi ran a stop sign and hit the victim's SUV. RCMP say Navjeet Singh from Brampton, Ontario, has been charged with dangerous operation of a vehicle causing death and obstructing a peace officer in relation to the incident. Mounties have been unable to locate him since. A cross-country warrant for his arrest is now out. The province has pledged 5 years of funding to help Western Manitoba communities target drug-related crimes. An RCMP investigation unit will receive around $1 million annually from various levels of government to crack down on crime and drug trafficking in Swan Valley. CBC's Chelsea Kemp has the story.
Items are stolen from the shelves of Wayne Gelsinger's convenience store almost daily. He says shoplifting is largely related to illicit drugs in the community.
We're scared. They're uncomfortable. We used to have times of the day where it was quieter, so we would only have one staff member on, but we can't do that anymore.
A new general investigation unit is aiming to address drug trafficking and related crimes. Over the next 5 years, it will receive funding from the federal government, province, and Swan Valley municipalities. The unit will have 3 dedicated RCMP officers and cost around $1 million a year.
What we're looking to see is an impact, as we talked about, with regards to organized crime, with regards to drug trafficking in particular.
Joyce Redmond works in downtown Swan River and says she doesn't feel safe anymore in the community she grew up in.
Because if the drug people that abuse the drugs, I guess, I don't know how else to describe it, if they can't get their fix, they're looking for ways to find that fix. And if it's theft, if it's break and enter, if it's, it's just a vicious cycle, it seems.
Swan River RCMP say the detachment should have 14 officers, but wouldn't say how many it's short right now. Those officers also respond to calls in 4 municipalities around Swan River. Mayor Lance Jacobson says the new unit will free up regular officers for other duties.
And this was the best solution we felt to start, but we have a long ways to go. Like, there's other things that we need to be working on.
Gelsinger says almost everyone in the community has been affected by petty crimes and drugs. He's glad something is starting to be done about it.
It sure can't hurt. If we can get rid of some of the stuff that's out there, that's one step anyway.
The province didn't give a timeline for when the new officers will be hired. Jacobson hopes it's sometime early in the new year. Chelsea Kemp, CBC News.
Police were called to the University of Manitoba's Fort Garry campus earlier this week about a man armed with a large knife. But a suspect was never found. And today, police say they haven't been able to find any evidence supporting the complaint. More than a dozen police cruisers were at the Allen building early Tuesday after a number of calls about an armed man in the building. An emergency alert was issued and classes on campus were cancelled. Police scoured the area and they say they explored multiple sources of evidence and haven't been able to substantiate any reports. A jury will begin deliberating soon in a high-profile human smuggling case against two men. Today, the U.S. jury heard closing arguments in the trial of two men charged after a family from India died trying to walk across the border from Manitoba in 2022. CBC's Caitlin Gowerluck has more.
They knew what they were doing, they knew how risky it was, and they did it anyway, because all they cared about was the money. That was the argument prosecutors presented to jurors at the end of the trial of two alleged human smugglers on Thursday. Steve Shand and Harshkumar Patel have pleaded not guilty to being part of a smuggling operation in December 2021 and January 2022. An operation prosecutors say led to the deaths of Jagdish and Vaishali Patel and their 11 and 3-year-old kids, a few meters from the U.S. border in Manitoba almost 3 years ago. Shand was arrested near the border with other Indian nationals in the van he was driving. Harshkumar Patel, no relation to the family, is accused of coordinating the smuggling and hiring Shand. Prosecutors introduced evidence including cell phone data and records from flights, car rentals, and bank accounts. They say it shows when each of the smuggling trips happened and proves both accused are guilty of all counts. But the defense says it's not true. Patel's lawyers say he's been wrongfully accused in a conspiracy he had no part in. And he's not the guy prosecutors say was on the other end of text conversations about those trips with Shand. Shand's lawyers say Patel was the one organizing things, and Shand was a clueless cab driver who got roped into a situation he didn't understand until it was too late. Jurors also heard for the first time from the two Winnipeg forensic pathologists who did the Patel family's autopsies. They say by the time the family's bodies were found, they were so frozen that it took days before their autopsies could be done. The jury will begin deliberations Friday. Caitlin Gowerluck, CBC News, Fergus Falls, Minnesota.
The city of Winnipeg may be sailing into uncharted waters with its next budget. The latest financial forecast estimates that the city's deficit has grown. But unlike in past years, there's no money in the city's stabilization reserve to cover the shortfall. The city estimates its deficit this year will be $23.4 million. City staff recommend using more than $14 million it would have transferred to its reserve fund to cover part of the shortfall. But that still leaves more than $9 million which would need to be accounted for in next year's budget. Finance Chair Jeff Brawadi says he's never seen the reserve fund completely empty in the 18 years he's been on council.
As far as I'm aware, I think this is new territory.
The city is facing higher than expected costs for everything from snow clearing and road repairs to police and fire paramedics. A delay getting provincial approval for a $1 911 service charge to all phone bills is also contributing to the shortfall. The city has had to repeatedly draw from its fiscal stabilization reserve to balance the budget over the last few years, meaning there is nothing there to help this time.
Unfortunately, those things have come to roost and we're in a difficult situation right now.
Mayor Scott Gillingham would not say whether he planned to maintain the 3.5% property tax increase he committed to in the last civic election.
We have very limited revenues and we need a new funding formula from the province of Manitoba and we need more revenue.
Gillingham says he hopes to hear something from the province about a new funding formula at next week's meeting of the Association of Manitoba Municipalities. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And let's get right into our weather forecast now with our weather specialist, Riley Lechuk. Riley.
You know, another, I guess, closer to average day across much of the province, Brittany. Looking at some of our daytime highs from the day to start off with Roblin getting up to -10 today, -6s through Dauphin into the Brandon region, -1 in Winnipeg. We reached that daytime high overnight into the early morning hours. Our temperature throughout the day, though, has been steady closer to that -3 mark throughout the day today. We'll start to see the temperature sliding a bit as we get into the overnight hours tonight. We're looking at a partly cloudy sky. I know there wasn't a lot of sunshine today, as expected, although I did see some blue sky on my walk into work today, a couple little patches of that. So partly cloudy, -8 tonight. We'll see a bit of cloud building into the morning. A few flurries, potentially pretty isolated and widespread across southern Manitoba. -7 first thing, west winds at 10, and we're looking at sunny breaks of the afternoon. -4 for our forecast high. This is now seasonal for this time of the year. We'll talk more about that and more snow when I come back.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
We have much more local news straight ahead. Stay with us. This is Manitoba, and this is Manitoba on your smart TV, because CBC News is now streaming local. Get local headlines, weather, and community notices, plus newscasts and live programming on your favorite connected device
all for free. It's called the CBC News Manitoba streaming channel. See your community on your connected TV and mobile devices. CBC News Manitoba, your local news streaming channel, now available.
On the topics that matter, your voice should be heard.
I'm really concerned.
And I'm not really happy about that.
Radio Noon is where you can voice your take. I'm Janet Stewart. From 12:30 to 1 p.m., Radio Noon opens the phone lines on one important topic.
It just brings everyone together.
Radio Noon's call-in segment, 204-780-0893. We want to hear from you, weekdays on CBC.
Doctors in Brandon say their emergency department is at risk of collapsing, and now they're pleading for help. For more, we're joined by the CBC's Ian Fraze in the newsroom. So, Ian, why are physicians sounding the alarm now?
They say levels of burnout and exhaustion have never been higher. Senior nursing staff are fleeing, and they say if nothing changes, a catastrophe is about to happen. Earlier this week, Progressive Conservative health critic Kathleen Cook made the doctor's letter sent to Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera public. On Thursday, Asseguera responded saying the government is making progress. A new doctor is about to join the ER.
What I've been able to do and what our team has been able to do by working together with our partners is successfully have a physician identified to work in the emergency department in Brandon.
But Cook says one more doctor doesn't cut it. She says the NDP's excuses, blaming the former PC government, are getting tiring.
I find it interesting and very concerning that the minister ignored this letter from these very concerned healthcare professionals until I brought it up in question period yesterday. They tout themselves as a listening government, but when frontline healthcare professionals reach out begging for help, they're ignored.
Asseguera also said today the government will be meeting with ER workers in Brandon to discuss their concerns. Brittany.
All right, thanks, Ian. That's CBC's Ian Fraze. 6 seized homes connected to suspected criminal activity in Point Douglas are now being demolished. The houses were taken under the province's Criminal Property Forfeiture Act. More than $2 million in property, cash, and drugs were seized after a 5-month police investigation dubbed Project Matriarch. The province was looking to sell the properties for cheap, with hopes of them being turned into affordable housing. Longtime resident and community activist Sel Burrows says it's an exciting day for the neighborhood. He says Purpose Construction won the RFP.
While we're celebrating the destruction of these horrible houses, what can we learn so that in the future drug dealers can't profit off these communities and that communities can be healthier and safer, quicker?
Sandra Giebosh, the woman dubbed the matriarch of the pink crack cocaine trafficking ring, was sentenced to 10 years in prison in June. Housing advocates say the federal government isn't doing enough to expand social housing in Manitoba. More than 2,000 housing units have been built in the province over the last 7 years, but only 253 of them sit at an affordable price range for low-income renters. Kirsten Bernas is with the Right to Housing Coalition.
We want to see a greater priority being placed on creating units that will meet the needs of low-income renters. As we mentioned, we need 10,000 new units of social housing in Manitoba over the next 10 years, and we know we can't do that without significant federal investments.
The province is committing to build 350 new affordable housing units this fiscal year. Meanwhile, the City of Winnipeg has promised to add around 230 units for low-income renters. Riley's back now. Riley, I feel like we were talking about so many days that we'd had without snow, and then we had that little scuff out at the airport, which we didn't count. And then driving home this morning after the gym, I started seeing all that snow flying, and those temperatures that you are forecasting looking a little bit more seasonal. And I
Yes.
I know it's the end of November, middle of November. I'm still not ready for them.
I know. It kind of came on suddenly. I mean, there was warning. It was in the forecast, but I think it's just when you start to feel that when you walk out in the morning, especially in a place like Brandon where we saw minus double digits this morning, it's kind of a shock to your system.
I feel like we were all getting a little cheeky, right? We were like, oh, it's a lovely warm fall. And then Mother Nature's like, no, no, no.
Not quite. Yeah, we may have not gotten as much snow as we normally get so far in November, at least anyway, but we have gotten quite a bit of rain.
Yes.
For this time of the year. I have some stats that I just got. I want to show you these stats here. This November, so far, we've had 62.3 millimeters of precipitation. This is combining, well, what was pretty much all rain, but what would be rain and snow equaling to 62 millimeters of precipitation. Usually in the month of November, we'd get 24 and about a half millimeters combined between rain and snow. So far, that means we've had a very, very wet November, 252% of our normal precipitation so far. This will end up going down. We'll wait and see how this shakes out next week. One of the wettest Novembers on record that we've seen here in Winnipeg, at least anyway. So just a little bit of an interesting stat for you. We have seen a little bit of clearing back to the west as we've gotten through the afternoon hours today. I was walking into work this morning and I did see a couple of hints of blue sky over Winnipeg, but by and large, we did see a mainly cloudy day here in the city today, and even a couple of snowflakes over at the airport through the afternoon hours and into the early morning, and even a couple of that little stray flurry activity showing up on radar in parts of western Manitoba. We do have a bit more precipitation on the way. Here's a look at your big picture to kind of understand what's happening out there right now. So this is that low here that has kind of fizzled out and brought a little bit more precipitation into southern Ontario. Here's the rest of that bomb cyclone off the coast of British Columbia. And as we get into the weekend, we are looking at a little bit more snow on the way for southern Manitoba, a little bit far out yet to talk about accumulations, but we'll run some of the numbers for you here. By the time we get to the morning tomorrow, we do start to see a bit of cloud building in again, and a fairly widespread chance of some isolated scattered flurries across southern Manitoba. So through the Westman area, first thing in the morning, but generally through the morning hours, looking at that chance of some flurries. And I'm not talking about a heavy snow per se, but could run into some flurries through the morning, into the early afternoon even for northwestern Ontario. So this kind of makes its way out of the province by the time we get to the later afternoon. A little bit of cloud cover hanging around, and we get a predominantly cloudy sky as we head into Saturday as well. But as we get into the day on Sunday, this is when things get interesting, and I'm going to pull the map out a little bit for you here. Area of low pressure developing in Montana with the border on Alberta. This will move northeastward as we get through the day on Sunday. Right now, this is mainly impacting Saskatchewan, so this could mean some snowfall warnings on the Saskatchewan side of the border as we get through the weekend. So far, at least the most current model runs that I've been looking at have been keeping this snow for the most part into Saskatchewan. But again, that western side of the province could see some accumulating snow. And I'm even thinking 2 to 5 centimeters for the Winnipeg region, which I'll show you right now. So still a few centimeters yet to come for far northern Manitoba. Trace of snow with some of that flurry activity as we head through Friday into the day on Saturday. Again, this is just one model run for some of the snowfall projections. Again, I'm thinking 2 to 5 centimeters as we get into the day on Saturday. -4 Brittany tomorrow, and we're looking at some snow again for Sunday.
All right. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Much more to come straight ahead. One Winnipegger is warning others of a new elaborate scam. Destiny Funk got a call from someone she now knows was posing as a Manitoba hydro technician. She was told she was overdue on payments and someone was coming to turn her power off. It was all part of an elaborate scheme. Today on Information Radio, she described how the scam started with a simple phone call and what happened next.
Hi, this is Destiny at insert my home address. As yes. And they said, yeah, we have a work order to come disconnect services because of like your account being in arrears.
So they had your name, they had your home address, they had your phone.
Yeah.
I know that right away you knew something there was off because you, like many Manitobans, pay automatically through your account every month, right?
Exactly, yeah, through pre-authorized payments, yeah.
And so you got transferred eventually to the second person who called themselves John. What was that conversation like?
Yeah, so like once I got on the phone with John, I basically asked like, what's going on with my account? And they were like, you're in the arrears for 2 months. We haven't gotten September. We haven't gotten October. And I was like, impossible. I'm looking at my bank account right now. It's been taken out. And they asked for transaction numbers. I said, I don't have that. I can just send you an email with a screenshot of the withdrawals. And they were like, no, we can't do that. It's going to take 24 hours for us to investigate it. And by the time we get it, like your power is already going to be turned off. So like basically there's nothing you can do but go to this kiosk. Which is what leads to that.
So you recently moved, which actually made some of this seem more plausible because people who've been through a move know that sometimes with transfer of payments, you start to think, well, maybe something's wrong, right?
Exactly, yeah. So I was concerned because they said, well, we had sent you 2 letters now saying that like you were in arrears. And so now this is basically like your final warning. We're coming out now. And I was like, well, I haven't gotten any, but then it played on my mind because, yeah, like I've just moved within the last few months.
So where was the kiosk and why were they sending you there? What did they say?
So it was the closest kiosk to where I was in the city because I was upset that they said, well, you're going to have to go down to Manitoba Hydro and get this figured out with them. Or basically figured out like at the head office. And I was like, I don't have time for this. I'm across the city. I really don't have time to be driving across the city. So they said, well, there's a location closest to you. We have kiosks all over the city, authorized dealers or whatever. They told me one that was close to me and they were like, you can go pay your bill there. We'll get the confirmation on our end and then we can stop the technician from coming to your house. But without that, we're not going to stop it because you could just be evading payment forever, basically, and prolonging it, and then we'll never cut it off.
Okay. So you actually went to the convenience store, right?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
So that's the thing. They gave me the address, and I looked it up because I wanted to see where I was going. And the picture of the convenience store came up right away, and I was like, that doesn't seem right.
Okay.
And then that's when I kind of started asking more questions, like, so you want me to go pay my bill in cash at a kiosk at a convenience store?
Got it.
Yeah.
But what's interesting here is, I mean, when you along the way were trying to verify as you were having these long conversations, lots of detail here we're not getting to, I understand, but they had information about you. They had like an official, put you on hold, you're on Manitoba Hydro, you've reached us line. Even some of the visual things I understand, like it was all sort of aligning with like a pretty sophisticated scam to make a person think it's hydro.
Yeah, like it was pretty elaborate. Like they had the welcome to Manitoba Hydro menu. They've since changed that because I've called the number back a few times to see if I can get them again, but I can't. They've since changed that. But yeah, they had hold music. They had everything. They had, you can reach me back at this extension. And I had no reason to originally question it because they had so much personal information. It was a very personalized script.
You did then, instead of going to the convenience store, you went to did you go right to Manitoba Hydro at that point?
Yeah, because they kind of messed up and they said, you need to go down to Manitoba Hydro. They told me on Portage. I didn't even know where the Manitoba headquarters were. So they said, go down to Portage. And then I said, well, that's too far. So then they said the kiosk option. And I said, I'm not doing that. I'm just going straight down to the head office. And they're like, well, good luck. Like, we're not going to see you without an appointment. And I was like, well, I'll take my chances. So that's what I did.
Because I was wondering, why would they tell you to go to the hydro office if they're not legit hydro? But that was, they made a misstep there.
They made a mistake, big mistake.
So you go to hydro and you tell them what's happened. What do they say to you?
Well, I walked in, I was frustrated. I wasn't guns a-blazing, but I was like, hi, I just talked to someone named John and they told me to come down here to figure it out. And can you please tell me what's going on? Is there some sort of discrepancy here? And the guy at the counter was immediately just complete different vibe than this John guy on the phone. He was like, oh yeah, it sounds like they're getting pretty elaborate. And I was like, wait a minute. Are you telling me this is fake? It was such a jaw-dropping moment because I basically, aside from the whole cash to the convenience store aspect, I was not under the impression at all that this was fake. I felt like it was dodgy, but it was not fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You went to police as well. What did they say?
So I actually hadn't gone to the police yet because I went to make a police report and it says that the police report can only be made if I was a victim of identity theft or I actually suffered financial loss. But it has been reported to the Canadian fraud line.
The Prime Minister has announced a tax break just in time for the winter holidays. Justin Trudeau says he'll remove the GST for 2 months from a wide array of products, and he says there's more support for Canadians coming. Olivia Stefanovich has more on the Liberal plan and the reaction.
Our government can't set prices at checkout, but we can put more money in people's pockets.
The Prime Minister announcing financial relief during a challenging economic and political time.
For 2 months, Canadians are going to get a real break on everything they do.
Starting December 14th, the federal government wants to lift the federal sales tax on almost everything at the grocery store, plus beer and wine.
I think no taxes on groceries is great, especially when I have a little guy.
Well, I'm 19 years old, just moved out of home. It helps me a lot to save money, trying to live on my own. It's great for us.
That'll be a nice surprise, and also it'd be nice if it was extended.
The tax break will also apply to family goods, including children's clothing, diapers, and toys. When the GST vacation is over, Ottawa intends to send $250 checks to every Canadian whose annual income is less than $150,000. New Democrats say they will help pass the government's bill.
We know that middle-class families need a break, so we're going to work as hard as possible to get this done as quickly as possible.
With Jagmeet and Justin, it is double trouble for Canadians.
The NDP's support fresh fuel for Conservative attacks.
What we have is a 2-month temporary tax trick that will not make up for the permanent quadrupling carbon tax on heat, housing, food, and fuel.
The proposed measures will cost approximately $6 billion.
It's a bit weird as a way to do things.
Money that the Bloc Québécois was looking for to permanently boost seniors' pensions.
The Liberals have shown that when they need billions of dollars in order to literally buy votes, they find it.
Before Canadians can see any relief at the checkout, a non-stop debate in the House of Commons needs to be set aside. It's jammed up Parliament for 2 months, and there's no end in sight. The NDP will only agree to a pause to get these measures through. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Greenpeace staged a protest in the driveway of Pierre Poilievre's house in Ottawa today. The environmental group says it was to draw attention to what they call the Conservative leader's anti-climate agenda. Two activists locked themselves to a replica of an oil pump jack in front of the residence. Police say the demonstrators did not allow Poilievre's family to pass. The protesters were removed and arrested with charges pending. The International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. Former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant also was indicted. The court alleges reasonable grounds to believe them criminally responsible for murder, persecution, and starvation as a weapon of war. Israel has denounced the decision. It came as Gaza officials said the war's death toll had passed 44,000. A warrant was also issued for leading Hamas figure Mohammed Deif in connection to the October 7th attacks. Israel, though, says that he's been killed. The court relies on member states to apprehend a suspect arriving on their territory. The European Union says today's decision should be respected. The U.S. is not an ICC member. Prime Minister Trudeau was asked today for Canada's position on the ICC announcement. Here's his response.
We are one of the founding members of the International Criminal Court and International Court of Justice. We stand up for international law, and we will abide by all the regulations and rulings of the international courts.
A Russian attack prompted an accusation from Ukraine today that the assault included an intercontinental ballistic missile.
Сьогодні була нова російська ракета.
Ukraine's president said the weapon had all the characteristics of an ICBM. Reports say Western officials were skeptical. More intrigue followed when a Russian spokesperson received a call mid-news conference instructing no comment. Moscow says a medium-range hypersonic missile was fired, responding to a Ukrainian strike it says included U.S. and British missiles. An ICBM wartime launch would be unprecedented. Police in Brazil have formally accused former President Jair Bolsonaro of involvement in an attempted coup. Bolsonaro lost his re-election bid in 2022. 3 months later, riots questioning the result erupted in the capital. Today, police presented the Supreme Court with their investigation's final report. It concludes there was an attempt to dismantle the constitutional state, naming Bolsonaro and 36 others. The court will present recommendations to prosecutors next week. Smog in the capital of India this week is so heavy, the government ordered half its workforce to stay home and canceled classes.
Due to this pollution, our classes have been suspended, and now we have been shifted to online classes.
Yesterday, New Delhi was ranked the world's most polluted city. Smog was at a level that experts say is a risk to healthy people and seriously impacts those with existing diseases. India battles air pollution every winter as cold, heavy air traps dust, emissions, and smoke from illegal farm fires. It's a phrase commonly being used to demean, insult, and discriminate against people with disabilities, and one prophet wants it to end. Stay with us. Motion Ball is a national nonprofit that empowers young Canadians to be leaders in their communities while raising funds and awareness for Special Olympics through social and sporting events. For a decade, Motion Ball has been working to make sure those who live with intellectual disabilities are not just accepted but celebrated. Marina Lovell is a Motion Ball event director here in Winnipeg and joins me now. Thanks for being here, Marina.
Thank you so much.
Marina, first off, I want to start with the campaign. Tell me about No Good Way and what it is.
Absolutely. So No Good Way was a campaign that was started about 10 years ago, and it initiated when a Special Olympic athlete had reached out to the Motion Ball team and just kind of wanted to explain how harmful the use of the R word can be to Special Olympic athletes and to those Canadians living with an intellectual disability. So we started this campaign about 10 years ago, and it's a national anti-bullying campaign aimed at promoting inclusivity as well as ending the casual use of the R word in everyday conversation.
So the R word is not only used to demean and insult people with disabilities, but really to discriminate against them. So what have you seen through your work with Motion Ball, and what do you guys hear from some of the people you work with?
I think it's really difficult to put into words how harmful it can be to people, especially those living with an intellectual disability, and the fact that it still sometimes is used, in everyday conversation with a friend here and there. It really just it's demeaning and very hurtful, and really kind of separates, those living with an intellectual disability from the rest of society, when what we're really aimed at doing is wanting to promote inclusivity for everybody.
We're seeing some videos of some of the Motion Ball events that have happened in the past. And I just want to say, you can see the smile on so many of these participants' faces, and it really shows you why inclusivity is so important, and not just including people physically, but with our language. So how prevalent is that improper language still being used? What are you hearing from some of these people?
I think on the surface, we like to think that people know that it's a bad word. They know that it's a word that shouldn't be used. But I think you still do see in generations, old and young, you still do see the word being used. And it's one of those things that kind of sneaks itself into a casual conversation between friends. And really, you don't know who else is in the room. You don't know who else hears it. And I think we like to think that it's gone, but I think it's still very much used, and that's really the point of this campaign. We've been working really hard to promote inclusivity and reduce and eliminate really the use of that word, but it still does kind of sneak its way in. So that's why we're continuing this campaign, continuing this initiative, and really working to just promote inclusivity wherever and whenever possible.
It feels like it's almost more hurtful when it's used so casually, and bullying is what we talk about so often. It's a problem that, so many of us have dealt with, not just when we're growing up, but even as adults. So maybe speak a bit for you why these campaigns are important and how you're seeing them help.
I think promoting the idea of No Good Way is it's kind of it's the top of the iceberg, if you will, for just promoting inclusivity in all aspects with folks living with an intellectual disability. So, eliminating the use of that particular word is one piece of it, but really showing support, it's part of a bigger project, right? Which is what Motion Ball is all about, and making sure that those folks, those Special Olympic athletes, anyone in Canada or anywhere in the world living with an intellectual disability, that they are part of the community, and that they're not on an island on their own. And that's really what we're trying to do. And since its inception in 2014, we've had tens of thousands of Canadians that have signed the pledge, that have agreed, and if you will, to stop using that word and to really promote positive language. I think we know that, and we see the power that words have and can carry in the world. And this campaign's, the fact that it's been around for 10 years, obviously it's still a word that is being used, but it really does highlight the number of people involved and that have taken the pledge, really does highlight the power of positive language and inclusivity. And it really empowers communities across Canada to create that safer space for Special Olympic athletes or anyone living with an intellectual disability.
We do know words have power. So really quickly, how can people get involved if they want to be a part of this?
Absolutely. So we have a website, motionball.com/nogoodway. It's a great way to take a look at some of the resources that we have and to sign that pledge that I spoke about. Alternatively, if you're on social media, at motionball is our Instagram handle. And then locally within Winnipeg, at motionballwpg has a lot of really great resources. And if you're near the Forks this weekend on Saturday, the Winnipeg sign will be lit up yellow in support of this campaign. So you can check it out, take a photo, and tag us in it.
Marina, thank you so much, and we hope so many people sign on and join that pledge.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
So Saturday, that Winnipeg sign going to be lit up. If people are heading out, probably want to be bundled for that on Saturday, and even probably tomorrow morning for the dog walk.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get right into the dog walking forecast because we are looking at a bit of a chillier morning once again for Winnipeg, and particularly out to the west. I'll get to some of your overnight temperatures in just a moment. First, though, we want to take a look at Winston here. Thank you, Matt and Michael, for sending this picture in. Yeah, that's how I feel when mornings get cold, and they're only going to get colder. You can send your pictures to talkback@cbc.ca. So looking at a wake-up temperature of -7 in Winnipeg. I accidentally skipped over it earlier, but we're looking at those temperatures in the minus double digits for parts of the west again tomorrow morning. Northwest winds at 10 by the afternoon, so lighter winds once again, and that's the theme that we'll see, well, at least through the southern part of the province. Still a bit of windy conditions in parts of the north, but certainly looking at -5 by the evening hours. Northwest winds at 10 kilometers an hour. So looking at your forecast now for tonight, we'll see winds dying down as we get through the evening hours tonight. So more like northwest 10 by the time we get into the overnight hours tonight. But overnight, we're looking at temperatures -13s once again for Brandon and Verdun, -10 for the Dauphin region, -6 into the Interlake. Risk that we could see a few more flurries yet to come through places like Lynn Lake. A slim chance of that in Thompson as well, -11, -7 for Gillam tomorrow with a mainly cloudy sky. And we'll see winds staying a little bit on the gusty side as we get through the day on Friday for parts of northern Manitoba, but they do back off as we get through the afternoon hours. And yes, you can see still a few flurries through parts of northern Manitoba. 6 into Dooley Lake by lunchtime, and really staying around -6, -7. And these temperatures actually fairly seasonal for this time of the year. In terms of snow to come for northern Manitoba, a couple centimeters yet for Lynn Lake. Could see some of those higher accumulations, though, along the Hudson Bay coast, but generally just looking like a dusting of snow through the northern part, the far northern part of our province as we head through the day on Friday. There's that chance of a scattered flurry first thing in the morning for the Westman region, -8s and -9s by first thing in the morning, and we do start to see more sunshine by the time we get to the afternoon hours. I know we did see a little bit of sun through parts of the west. There's that chance of a scattered shower even through the lunch hour for Winnipeg and the southern Interlake. That does push its way out as we get through into the afternoon hours tomorrow. And I am hopeful, and I'll say I'm optimistically hopeful, that we'll see a little bit more sunshine through the Red River Valley tomorrow, Brittany. We're looking at temperatures staying fairly seasonal for this time of the year. You're 7 days on the way.
Hopeful is better than not.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, a months-long mystery in Newfoundland may be closer to being solved. Blobs of an unidentified substance have been washing up on shore. Now a scientist says he knows what those blobs are made of. But as Jessica Singer learned, the finding doesn't answer all the questions.
These white blobs appearing on Newfoundland's coast, what they are, where they came from, have been a mystery for months.
This was a real, crime scene investigation type of approach where we've got this material, we're really going back to basics.
Scientist Chris Kozak and his team say they have an answer. The substance is man-made. They say the blobs contain polyvinyl acetate, or PVA, a chemical that's often used in glue. They also contain a kind of synthetic latex rubber. These strange white blobs have been washing up on Newfoundland's shores for months, and there's still many questions about them that remain unanswered. The blobs were discovered in Placentia Bay on Newfoundland's east coast, just north of shipping lanes that connect North America with Europe.
Where is it from? Did it come from a plane? Did it come from a ship?
Stan Tobin has lived in the area his whole life. He'd never seen these white, sticky blobs before. Now, he says he's come across hundreds.
It looked like styrofoam. So I walked down, took a look at it, and it was gooey and not what I thought it would be at all.
There's been a lot of theories about the blobs. Some said it could be congealed fat or bits of human waste. Others have claimed it could be whale blubber. Kozak says these theories have been disproven. Scientists with Environment and Climate Change Canada are also trying to figure out what these blobs are made of and whether environmental legislation has been violated. Kozak says the blobs are potentially part of a bigger environmental issue.
It just suggests that there was a lot of this stuff put into the environment that doesn't belong there. It should be cleaned up. It's seen as plastic pollution, it's plastic waste.
He hopes someone is able to provide more solid answers to the origins of the mysterious white blobs. Jessica Singer, CBC News, St. John's.
Still ahead, it is that time of year. The holiday light displays have begun. And soon we'll have, of course, some snow to go along with them. Riley Laychuk will be back after the break with a last look at our forecast. Stay with us. The mayor and premier will face off on the ice later this month to celebrate Winnipeg 150. The friendly match recreates a similar one played 50 years ago during the city's centennial, when Mayor Stephen Juba's City Fathers took on Premier Ed Schreier's Golden Boys. This time around, Mayor Scott Gillingham hopes municipal funding is on the line.
I will lose by 10 goals if it means whatever to get a new funding formula. I am not ashamed to say.
I guess, are you looking forward to that, Mr. Mayor?
It's going to be fun, yeah.
The matchup takes place Saturday, November 30th at 11:15 at the Gateway Recreation Centre. Admission is free, and there'll be free hot dogs and drinks for the first 250 people. Donations for Manitoba Harvest will also be collected.
And you can bet it'll be a hard-fought battle. I have another Santa Claus Parade forecast to show you. This one is for Brandon, which is having its Santa Claus Parade coming up on Saturday evening. That's 6 p.m. start. I think by then we'll be in the light snow, and you're going to want to bundle up for that one because we're looking at a temperature of -13. A far cry from the parade we saw in Winnipeg last weekend with some drizzle and about -5. -4, very seasonal day tomorrow with some scattered flurries in the morning. Then we start to see some cloud building in through Saturday with some snow moving in for Sunday. Right now I'm saying about 2 to 5 centimeters of snow, but then look what happens as we get into next week. Our temperatures staying around that -7, -8 mark until the end of next week, and double-digit lows in the minus for the overnight. Food inflation is one thing, but a multi-million-dollar banana is an entirely different matter.
Is it expensive groceries or is it art? Here's your Daily Lift.
Fair warning, at $5,200,000. Jen, the Catalan is yours. Congratulations. Thank you very much indeed.
Whew, the conceptual work auctioned off last night in New York is literally just a banana duct taped to a wall. Bidding for the piece by an Italian artist started at $800,000 US.
A little bit out of my budget, but when all was said and done, get this, it went for a whopping $5.2 million. Yes, that is way out of my price range, plus another $1 million in auction house fees. The banana buyer was a Chinese collector and cryptocurrency entrepreneur. What do you do with that?
Well, Riley, I have a kiwi and an apple and an orange at home if you want me to make you smart.
Well, I've got an orange on my desk. So.
I won't charge you that much.
Okay, sounds good.
Better deal. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night.